Hello everyone, and welcome to our Spotlight on Tanzania webinar. I can see you all coming in now. Unfortunately, there's no face-to-face context, so please feel free to use the chat options at the bottom of your screen, and there's also a Q&A that you can send some questions to us that we can answer at the end of the webinar. I hope you've all had a restful festive season. And looking forward to the new year. I was going to just say quickly, thank you to those who contributed questions last time. You should have received your little certificates with where your trees are planted by Go Make a Difference. So it is worth contributing some questions and we'll send you a little thank you. I can see we've got sort of almost everyone in now, so I will move to the next slide. So today we are focusing on Tanzania a lot. On our last webinar, we did a poll to ask where you'd like to find out some more information on, and Tanzania won. So today we've got some panelists together to present some different options. We've also got someone who's going to sort of talk to us one of their trips. So we'll start off with So, a little welcome from So, and then Nadine's going to talk through a typical or an example of a Tanzania itinerary. Obviously, we can tailor make it to whatever you want it to be. Then Catherine and Jean are going to talk about Wayo Africa and conservation before Jane finishes off with talking about her honeymoon in Tanzania. If you'd like to join us on the chat and just say hello and where you're from, it would be great to hear from you. So I'm just going to start off with a little video from the Tanzania Tourist Board, just with some highlights of Tanzania. Okay, so we're just going to have a few words from So now. Barry almost didn't join us tonight, but luckily he's with us. Go for it, So.
Just made it. Thanks, everybody. So exciting to see how many of you have joined us again. We really hope that this is really informative for you. We've got some great people for you to listen to, true experiences. And thanks to the Wayo guys and Jean and Nadine, who are obviously in Tanzania, so it's quite late for them right now. We were just talking actually that it was actually March, Nadine and I were over in Tanzania with Catherine and John when we first got introduced to each other, and we'd gone to Manyara and we'd gone into the Serengeti, and we were, I remember this day we were doing a bit of a walk, and we were walking across the plains of the Serengeti. We camped that night. The wildebeest, the migration was all around us. And as we were walking along, you probably can't see me on the screen, there was a big circle of zebra and wildebeest as the migration almost made this perfect circle around us. And I can remember walking along thinking, oh my, I can't believe it. We are the lions. And this is what happens. We've got a lion's eye view of the world. And it was just epic. And I can't believe it was that long. And it was very interesting because obviously the wildebeest and the zebra, they travel together, and they travel together. They share the food, they eat different food. And we were at camp that night. And I remember Jean and I had sat down. We'd been getting to know each other over 2 or 3 days. We sat by the fire, and Jean reached out for a red wine, and I reached out for a gin and tonic. And I thought, that's it. The first rule of traveling together on safari: don't compete for food. And from then on, I knew we were going to be okay. And actually, over that period of time, it was lovely, because who we deal with is very, very important to us. And the core values of those people and that company it is very important, and that comes out, and that's why this partnership has grown up, and we're really excited about that in the future. So we're really excited for you to hear what they say. I do believe, I'm really sorry, I've got a really dry throat. I'm just going to have a mouthful of tea. I really do believe when we did the poll last time and you chose Tanzania, for me, the Serengeti Masai Mara ecosystem is a fabulous place to go on safari. Tanzania has a huge number of different species of animals for you to see. It has really good routes through the parks. The connections to go from one place to another are really, really good. We have the mobile camps with WAO, we have the bush rovers. So even though you have smaller groups, we can actually even get you further out into the middle of nowhere. So we're literally on our own, as I was just describing before. And there is a fabulous range of cultural activities and physical activities. If you like hiking, if you like cycling, if you like canoeing, it's a real all-round package to go on safari. So I hope you enjoy the evening. Thanks so much for spending more of your time with us. We really, really appreciate it. I'll pass you on to some people who are going to give you a little bit more detail. So I hope you enjoy.
So Nadine's going to walk through what is possible, a possible itinerary. Obviously there's hundreds of possibilities, but she's just going to talk through one option now for you.
Hey, thank you very much, Sam. Yes, hello everyone, also from my side. As you already heard, I'm currently based in Arusha, Tanzania. So I'm very happy to see so many of you joining on our event on this special country. So I actually just wanted to highlight that the big safari company is actually specialized in offering individual trips to Africa. So we don't have a standardized trip or a set group departure, because we always want to talk to each of our customers individually to really get to know you, understand the background, your experiences and your wishes for this trip. And yes, based on that, you will receive your personal travel itinerary, which will be presented as an interactive link. Some of you may have seen this before, and we thought in order for you to get a better idea of how a trip to Tanzania can look like, we prepared a sample itinerary, which includes all the major parks and a relaxing beach stay at the end. Please keep in mind, this is supposed to give you a brief idea of what a trip can look like. All the details of the trip strongly depend on each client's preferences, on the time you will be traveling, and also on the availabilities in the country. As each itinerary can be adapted to your wishes, we can obviously also change or add specific activities, such as, yes, as so already mentioned, walking, canoeing, family-friendly activities. We can also go to other regions, southern Tanzania or somewhere at the coast, or even include another country. So if you wanted to do a multi-country trip, that's obviously also no problem. We obviously will try to operate within your budget or within the budget you feel comfortable with. However, I also have to point out in this regard that here in Tanzania, there are unfortunately certain fixed costs that we cannot change. Those are not the cheapest, but I can promise you, and I'm sure the other ones on this call can agree, that your money will be well spent and you will be rewarded with many priceless memories. And then, yes, once you have your personal itinerary, one thing that is actually very important to me is that, yeah, we actually need your honest feedback on this trip. Finding the perfect trip is a process, and the more we actually talk about it, the better. And yes, we can change it as much as possible, as often as needed, until we eventually find your dream trip. So yes, let's actually have a look. So you actually see what the link looks like. On the starting page, you will see a map with the route and yeah, the stops along the way. You will have, if we scroll down a bit, you will see some nice images of your accommodation. For this itinerary, we yeah, try to offer a mix of high-end camps, but also a very authentic safari experience. And if you look at the menu at the top, you will have some more information about the destination and the accommodations. And let's have a look at the destinations. So every international flight usually arrives into Kilimanjaro Airport, from where we will transfer you into Arusha. We usually book accommodation a bit outside of town. So you will actually have some time to relax after your long flight and enjoy a nice dinner on your first night in Tanzania. And then at the next morning, you will be picked up by your private driver who will be with you the whole time. You will have your own private car, which will be a game viewer with a pop-up roof, which is obviously very yeah, good for the game viewing on Safari. And yeah, you will take or you will be transferred to Tarangire National Park, where you will where you will be spending the next days on safari, exploring the different landscapes and the wildlife of the park. As you can see on these pictures here already, the park offers a beautiful and varied scenery. You have these huge baobab trees, you have permanent swamps, and also the Tarangire River, which is a magnet for the thirsty wildlife, and especially the many elephants in the park. Carrying on, the next national park will be Lake Manyara National Park, which is home to the famous tree climbing lions of Tanzania. But also this park offers a very beautiful scenery along the lakeshore. You will have open savannas and an evergreen forest. And in this location, we actually have a very special camp, which is Vayo's Lake Manyara Green Camp. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because the other ones are going to talk about it as well. But this camp, yes, is located in a less crowded area of the park, and thus enables a very private safari experience. What really impressed me is that you actually have a river flowing in front of the camp, so the wildlife will actually come to you. You will have your private waterfall where you can take a swim. This is obviously also great for families. Yes. Afterwards, actually a highlight of the trip follows. It's in Ngorongoro crater, which is the world's largest caldera. So you have actually a huge crater bowl, which is said to have the highest wildlife density anywhere in Africa. Yes, needless to say that the scenery is extremely breathtaking, be it viewing down from the top or being on the crater ground. So yeah, you will have many special wildlife sightings in this on the ground of the crater. We can also include other activities along the way, such as a treetop walk. You can visit a local village with a lunch, or you can even learn more about the Maasai culture. And yes, after that, it gets even better. You will visit one of the most famous national parks in the world, the Serengeti National Park, which is known for the wildebeest migration that takes part here every year. In the Maasai language, Serengeti means land of the endless plains, and you will soon see why. This is certainly one of the most scenic or spectacular safari destinations in the world, and you will be surrounded by many animals. And depending on the year you will, or the time of year you will be visiting, we will make sure that your accommodation will be located somewhere close to the migration, so you can actually experience this wildlife spectacle. Apart from that, we can also offer hot air balloon drives, or you could even go walking on the plains of the Serengeti, as so already mentioned. This is definitely a very special experience. Yes, and then after all the exciting wildlife, you will take a plane to Zanzibar, where you will be met by a driver who will then transfer you to your location or your accommodation at the beach. So the next few days you can actually relax a little bit, think about all the special memories you already made before you return home. Yes, and then for anyone that is a single traveler or who actually prefers to travel or explore a country in a group, we partnered with WAYO, and we can actually offer you a scheduled departure, which is leaving on the 16th of October this year. And we also have a launch offer, so every booking that is placed before the end of February, we will give you a free night game drive at the Lake Manyara camp. And in order for you to get a better idea of this special park, we have a little clip prepared, so you get a better idea. And yes, please feel free, if you have any questions, please place them in the chat below. We will try to answer them afterwards, or even via email. And yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nadine. Sorry. Sorry. It's bound to happen at some point that I lost the page. So thank you very much for that, Nadine. If any of you got any questions, please do put them in. There's a Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and then you could address them at the end. Or if you've got any comments that you want to, if you want to chat to other people, the chat is open as well. So feel free to contribute there. I'm going to hand over now to Jean and to Catherine, who are just going to talk a little bit about Tanzania and WAYO and their camps. So over to you, Jean.
Yeah, good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So I thought maybe to kick off and tell you just a little bit more about WAYO Africa and where it all started. I came to Tanzania in 1996 as a young ranger and got this incredible opportunity. You know, I mean, growing up in Southern Africa, you always dream about the Serengeti and the migration. And I basically got this opportunity to decide in 24 hours if I will go from South Africa to Tanzania to train some national park rangers. So I kind of packed a little bag thinking I'll just go on a quick mission for a training course. And now 25 years later, I'm still here, not having ever gone back to replace the little bag. But I arrived in Kilimanjaro, and next morning I flew straight out to Serengeti. And the idea very, very much was to go in and train national park rangers on anti-poaching skills. And one thing that I remember of that first day landing in the Serengeti. And I remember telling some of my friends back in Southern Africa is that I would stand on the airstrip and I would kind of turn around and I could see 20 different mammal species. And that is kind of unheard of. I mean, all countries in Africa are incredible, but the sheer number of species in Tanzania, and especially the Serengeti, is breathtaking. So, when you do come on a safari, it is literally that animals just come at you from all over the place. It's rare that you will have a moment where you drive on safari and you're not going to see anything. So if you ever wonder about driving hours and hours in Tanzania and not seeing any wildlife, let me make you rest assured that that's not going to happen. So my duty back then in 96, 97 was that we train national park rangers on anti-poaching. Ironically, we spent most of our time negotiating between two different tribes in the Serengeti, or kind of living in both ends of the Serengeti, the Wakuri and the Maasai. Unfortunately for both of them, both tribes believe that they own all of the cows in the world. So there was this constant battle going on between the Wakuri coming from Lake Victoria to the Maasai land and taking what is theirs, to kind of then shuttle this all across the Serengeti to the other side, and the Maasai coming back to take what is theirs. So we ended up, poaching was long forgotten by these tribes. The most important thing for them ended up being the cows. And soon after I arrived as well, El Nino arrived, and we were stuck on an island in the western corridor for Serengeti for 3 months, with the river just flooding all around us. It was pretty good for the waistline, running out of food. But over the couple of years to follow, we did spend an enormous amount of time on foot in the Serengeti. And once I was finished with the training program there, I thought it'd be so incredible to show this park and the far-reaching and remote corners of the Serengeti to guests, because at that stage, only the center of the Serengeti was really developed. So I started Wayo Africa with the idea to access these really remote little corners of national parks, focusing a lot on the Serengeti, following the migration around. Now, wanting to understand this entire ecology of the Serengeti is dictated by 2 million wildebeest that's moving through this ecosystem. So in kind of December, the migration would be in the south, in the short grass plains. And these are really plains that's like an ocean. You would stand in the middle of some areas of the plains and you would not see a tree. It's just a horizon of grass. So the migration will go there because the soil is very rich in copper and zinc. Very good for the babies. In about February, March, they will drop their babies. Interesting that no wildebeest babies would ever get dropped after 10 o'clock in the morning, because they need that the whole day to get strong for the night, when the lions and hyenas are obviously out looking for these babies. But then come towards June, that starts to rain central western Serengeti, and then the migration move up into the north. And in July, August, September, October is when you will see those incredible river crossings of the Mara River, where these enormous herds will cross the rivers, and crocodiles waiting the whole season. And these crocs will not eat an entire year. They will just wait for that crossing to take place. The entire Serengeti is not open plains. It's woodlands and savanna, mixed woodlands and all of that. So it's not boring plains the whole time. There's a lot of variation. But as we got settled in the Serengeti, we expand into other parks. And I also thought something that's missing in Tanzania at that stage were camps that's really environmentally minded. So we set up a series of green camps. As Nadine said, we've got a green camp in Lake Manyara now, which in many ways became our flagship camp. Catherine will tell us a bit more about that. And then we set up a mobile camp in Serengeti. And very quickly that we realized that it's very important to mix true adventure with really high-end style. So our camps are what we call barefoot luxury. It might be a tent, but to all purposes, as you can see in that picture, that is a huge tent. Double beds, running water, hot water, butler service, great meals, cold drinks, everything you want, and nothing you don't. So we've got a camp in Serengeti that's a mobile camp, and then we also set up these little walking camps that take you even further for those of you that feel like you kind of want to access places that no one has ever gone before. We offer these little walking safaris, and I think especially in days like today, where you've been sitting behind calls like this for months at end, I think there's a great need to reconnect and disconnect in the wilderness. So yeah, I think I'll leave it over to Catherine to tell us a little bit more about the actual camps and where they are and how they operate.
John, hi everybody. I'm Catherine. I'm marketing and sales and things for WAYO, and we partnered up with the Big Journey company, the big safari company initially, and they're just really like-minded people looking for people passionate in Africa and amazing experiences. So that's how the partnership arose. So our camps, they are incredibly special. I don't know how many of you have been on safari before, but when we say tented camps, they're not the kind of camps that you would normally expect. It's not glamping, it's not camping, it's safari, which is fully catered. You've got waiters, all amazing freshly cooked food, freshly sourced. We source a lot of our food from our farms of our employees. And we also, all drinks are included. So as So says, you can be sitting in the middle of the Serengeti with a gin and tonic in hand. Very important. But yeah, for any new safari goers, it's a different level. So when we're talking about tented camps, it's high end, it's luxury, it's comfortable, but it just means that you're very soft on the ground. You haven't got a big lodge in the middle of these beautiful parks. It means you can get closer to nature. So we've got our green camps, which are slightly more infrastructure, slightly more luxury. We've got a river camp, which is next to Benagri River, which is more central for people heading up to the north to see the crossings. And then for people who are looking for that little bit more adventure, to get a little bit more remote, maybe have the opportunity to do some more walking, we are permitted to be in these protected walking zones, which many people aren't actually allowed to be in. So we're very lucky in that respect. And we've got the walking camp, which again is proper beds, very comfortable, still gin and tonics. And then we've got our fly camping, which is the real adventuring, trekking guests who would like to go completely off-grid. And that's sort of more of a backpacking style. Okay, next slide, Sam. So everybody talks about Manyara Green Camp. They nearly stole everything that I was going to say, but there is so much to say, so I will carry on. Manyara Green Camp is very special to lots of people. We've seen so many guests arrive there, and they literally just stand looking at the riverbed and the escarpment, and they don't move for a good 5-10 minutes. It takes a while to take it all in. It's very, very special. So the waterfall is an ancient place where animals know that it's a reliable water source any time of the year. So when you arrive with your private safari guide, you are again shown to your tent, which is not really a tent, it's more of a room, but just canvas walls, and very comfortable beds, attached bathrooms. We use compost loos just because we're trying to be very eco, so we don't like flushing water into this natural environment. It affects how the whole ecosystem is working there. So we're very sensitive in that respect, but you don't really notice that it's not, your proper flush loo. Then you go out onto the riverbed and you're presented with a gin and tonic, and the elephants come in and the baboons come in, and you just watch this family. I was there 2 months ago, and this whole herd of elephants just came in. It was absolutely stunning. So that is a very special camp. It's wonderful. You can tie it in with canoeing on the lake, which is a wonderful experience. We can also do mountain biking before you get to Manyara National Park. And the game driving in there is just stunning. It's all forest. It makes a nice contrast to the Serengeti. It's a real bucket list place to visit. We can then take you onto our Serengeti Green Camp, which again is an amazing location just near Nabi Gate, which is where you come into the Serengeti. But the southern location of Serengeti Green Camp is where the calving season happens, which Jean touched on. It's just on the slopes of the Ngorongoro crater, really rich in magnesium, great for the milk of the wildebeest and the zebra. So we have our, and it's a very popular camp because it's just such a prime location. You can access the Ngorongoro conservation area there. Again, proper beds, really comfortable. It's a camp, but it's a luxury camp. It's delicious, freshly cooked food, and just that little bit more immersive with hyena at night and the sounds of wildebeest at night. It's amazing. We then, as I said, for those who want just that little bit more adventure, we're allowed to be we're very privileged in that we're allowed to be in these remote areas of the Serengeti, which many people aren't allowed to go into. And we're also allowed to do walking. And when we say walking, that's actually in the middle there is a picture of Jean and So from March, and the wildebeest lined up in front of them. Let's keep out the way. But it's not walking. You know, we don't trek at speed. It's a very casual, let's have breakfast on the way underneath this nice tree. Let's go and see what this is. Let's go and see some dung beetles. And then it's all the things that you don't realize that you want to see. So we came across a tortoise shell that had been discarded, and we were jigsawing all the pieces back onto the top of it. You get a real sense of how the Serengeti works just being on the ground there rather than being in a vehicle. But it's not strenuous. And then you come back to camp and you have your sundowners, and the sky in that picture at the bottom there, it really looks like that. We have the Milky Way above us, and you could just see it was like somebody had thrown a handful of white sand into the sky. It was just stunning. So for those people who want to get away and that detox, it's a really good option. Activities, again, if you're that kind of person, you can do the activities. If you want to do mountain biking, we just want people to really experience true Tanzania, and it just gives you an opportunity to see these villages in action. The Tanzanians are the most friendly, beautiful people I've ever met, and their hosting through these different activities really shines through. We also can do night game drives in Manyara, which is another really lovely option. And we've got Treetop Walkway, which Nadine touched on. So yeah, anything can be tailored. If you've got any questions, again, just pop it in the Q&A and we can address any of them. But everything's bespoke, so whatever you're into, we can tailor it to fit you.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that set us aside, and what I think So and Sam and Nadine enjoy about WAIO is our guides. Because we have so many different activities, it is highly guide centric, but it makes for the career for a young Tanzanian. And we've ended up sourcing a lot of our guides. Sorry, yeah, something that makes us really special is our guides and the level of our guiding. And because we've got so many activities, we are quite guide centric, and it makes for this amazing career for a young Tanzanian. And we end up now sourcing most of our employees out of local orphanages. When a young kid has gone through an orphanage or through a street boy program, they will join us as apprentices. And they generally will start up as our activity guides, like that last slide that Catherine spoke about. We do these short little village walks or mountain biking or treetop walkway, and those are guides that's kind of in their early 20s. We put them through a couple of guide training courses, and they will stay an activity guide for a couple of years. And from there, you can become a safari guide, and then eventually become a Serengeti walkie guide, which in our view is like the premier of guide in Tanzania. And we've got quite a few of those now that is actually working for us. So we feel that's a great social responsibility, giving these guys and then their families opportunity. Yeah, something else that I just want to kind of briefly touch on is like the current situation that Tanzania is in, and how important it is for you to start to travel right now, kind of more so than most other destinations, is that with COVID and the sudden stop of travel, there's a sudden stop of income as well for most staff in the national parks. And Most properties, ranges, all of those staff are coming from neighboring villages around the national parks. And now suddenly they all faced with no income, sitting on the edges of parks. There's no anti-poaching units working. So it's very tempting to go into the park and do some poaching. So the sooner we can get a tourism industry stimulated again in Tanzania, the better. You know, and all of these guys, you know, kind of on those pictures, guides, rangers, and they're all just sitting, waiting to get back into the field, ready for you. That's about the whale story.
Fab. Thank you very much, Anne and Catherine. It's great to hear about what you offer. And it's nice to see that we've still got everyone with us. If anyone's got any questions, please do pose them to us, and we can get through as many as we can at the end. I'm going to just start a poll just to see where you'd like to hear about next. So obviously tonight is on Tanzania, but where would you like to feature? Where would you like us to feature on our next webinar? So if I press launch poll, you should all be able to see it now. And then at the end, we'll see who's voted and have a democratic election. Oh, why did I say that? Okay. So now we're going to head to Jane, who very kindly has shared is willing to share some of her experiences from her honeymoon in Tanzania. So I'll hand over to Jane and she can tell you all about it.
Oh, thanks, Sam. Thanks very much for having me tonight, because you know I don't need much encouragement actually to talk about my honeymoon. It was 2.5 years ago. It still feels like yesterday. The memories are very fresh, still there in our minds, and we intend to go back as soon as we can. And it was just a honeymoon of a lifetime. But I just wanted to sort of maybe start off with how that worked for us. When we were getting married, obviously a honeymoon was something we wanted to do straight after the wedding. And we did consider just 2 weeks in the Caribbean, relax. And I reached out to a big big safari company now, but because we'd done the Caribbean so many times as a family. It was our regular sort of summer holiday place. So I reached out, and the team came back with some suggestions and said, would you not fancy doing something different, like a safari? How about Tanzania? Because given that you're getting married at the end of May, June is a great time to go. So we were quite open to that idea. We set out with a budget in mind, dates that were specific to us. And nothing was too much trouble. You know, we did a little bit of back and forth with, ideas in terms of what was actually going to suit us. We wanted something that was going to be memorable but relaxing, and something that was private as well, because it was our honeymoon. So we eventually agreed on an itinerary, which obviously was 7 nights on safari and 7 nights in Zanzibar at the end. So we then got a bit carried away with the wedding and kind of lost a bit of focus on the honeymoon. Didn't really do a lot of research into it. We just totally put our trust in So and the team in hope that everything was going to work out. But leading up to that, obviously, we had to take some responsibility for getting vaccinations, making sure that we were taking the right things with us. And we were pushed to our limits in terms of we were only allowed 15 kilograms of luggage each, which was just so small for us, so we had to really go back to basics on what were we going to need for 2 weeks. And so we packed really, really minimal, which was something we'd never done before. But anyway, we did everything that we needed to do, and off we went via Amsterdam, landed in Kilimanjaro, where, we were very, I guess, anxious, didn't really know what to expect. We'd never done a safari or anything like this before. And, there's just that relief, when you're met at the airport with your names on a board, and so friendly. The people that met us were just so friendly, and took us off to our accommodation for the night, where we could just relax, because obviously it'd been quite a long journey. I am going to go on a little bit more, but I think, just all that to say is that the standard of that accommodation, it was absolutely out of this world. It wasn't over the top, it was luxurious, but it totally fitted with where we were. And one of the other accommodations that we did stay in whilst we were on safari was at the Four Seasons. And so, Sam, I just think we should show that video, because then I think it really gives that idea, and then obviously we'll go on to the itinerary and stuff after.
Thanks, Jane. That was Jane's recommendation to show that, because it summarised the feeling of her going on holiday in Tanzania. But I'll hand back to you, Jane.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You know, so when we, like I said, when we landed into Kilimanjaro, we drove, I think, to Arusha, and we stayed overnight there. And the next morning, we were met by our driver guide, who was our, in a sense, became our friend for the week. It was just me, my husband Stuart, and our driver. And you know, we got to know him really well, and he was so knowledgeable, so friendly. We felt like we'd known him for ages. And on the first day, he said to us, "What would you like to see?" And it was just general chat. So we, you know, we were like everything, anything. We have no expectations. We don't know what we're going to be faced with here. And obviously, but one thing that I sort of said, well, it's just a dream, isn't it? Everybody wants to see the migration, but that's just a dream, isn't it? Because you think it's Mother Nature. You know, what are the chances of seeing anything like that? Anyway, that was, you know, just one of the many conversations, and we did exactly what Nadine had, with the exception of the first park, but the itinerary that Nadine showed you, which was we did 3 of the parks. We did Lake Manyara, we did the Ngorongoro crater, and then we finished off in the Serengeti. And when we went to Lake Manyara, we were driving and we hadn't seen anything at this point. And I don't even know what, I don't know what we thought we were going to see, or we were just so bewildered with what we were doing. And we were driving along. One thing our driver had said to us, because it was just Stuart and I in the van for the whole week, he said, you know, you can stop at any time. You know, I'll take you where I think we'll go. But if you want to stop, then that's fine. This is your safari. And we stopped, and all of a sudden, like, the trees started sort of just sort of like rustling around, and it was like something out of Jurassic Park. And we sort of just looked at each other, and we didn't really know what to say. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if you can see on the slide, but that top middle picture, this herd of elephants just appeared from nowhere and just started following our van. We were just going very slowly, standing still, and it was just this moment that I think that we will forever just cherish, because, and that picture is still there in our minds, because that was the first thing that we ever saw. And then pretty much from that moment on, we saw animals that we didn't even know existed. I mean, it was insane. It was crazy. Like, we were just, we forgot about everything that was going on at home. We were totally immersed in that culture, in our surroundings. It was all very natural. Peaceful at the same time. We were in their world. We went to the crater. We stayed at a fantastic property there. It was a manor, so we had a range of different. We had a lodge. We stayed at a manor, and when we went to the crater, that really was like Jurassic Park. We seemed to be going on and like down into this sort of onto the bottom of the crater, and we just kept seeing all these different things. And one something that's very specific that sticks out to us is you know, we saw there was 2 lions in the distance, and that was one thing I would always recommend, is take a good pair of binoculars and invest in a good camera, because you know, that is what obviously gives you your memories and stuff, and because you can see things a bit more up close and personal. And we saw these 2 lions sort of in the distance behind some rocks, and we thought, wow, you know, that's cute. We were so excited that we had actually seen some lions. We were like, yay, but they were so far away, but we were happy with that. And then all of a sudden, it was like we waited about an hour, and we just sat in the van, and stood in the van looking out the top. And the picture on the top left corner, 14 lions just appeared out of these rocks and came right down the grass, and then onto this track. And we just kind of followed them. And that picture, again, is just one of those moments where you think, oh my word, like, are we actually seeing this? Is it real? But it is real. And you know, it's just one of those pictures. But you know, we saw so many animals, so much that we didn't expect. We never got to see a cheetah, but that's just Mother Nature, so that's our excuse to go back again. But one thing that did sort of stand out more, and I do get quite emotional, actually, I have to say, is he asked me on my first day what I wanted to see. And the bottom left corner, we did get to see the migration, and he got us up really early. He obviously had got his contacts in place, and we got up in the middle of the night. We met him at the van, and on our way, we you know, sort of bumped into a pride of lions who had just woken up and made the most almighty racket you've ever heard. And as we appeared sort of round, we were sort of driving round, and he said, "Oh, here's your dream, Jane." And I sort of just looked, and I was like, my goodness, you know, like there was wildebeest forevermore, there was zebra, lions sort of roaming around them and everything. And you're just almost speechless, just completely and utterly speechless. So that's obviously, the animals is obviously the big draw about going on safari. But I did want to just touch on our driver, which you can see there in the middle and in the top right. He was just a gem for the whole week. It wouldn't have been what it was. He looked after us from start to finish. Nothing was too much trouble. And even one day, you know, they said, "Oh, you're not coming back to the," I think, I don't know which accommodation we're at, "You're not coming back today, but you're going to have a picnic." So I just thought, oh, okay, well, that'll be a sandwich and a packet of chips or something. And I would have been quite happy with that. And then we got there, and we were overlooking all these hippos, and he pulls out this like 3-course meal in the middle of nowhere, and he sat on a little separate stool to us, and we chatted and stuff. And so your driver guide does play such an important part if you are on a private safari like that. And you know, their knowledge is second to none. So I think, I don't know what else. I did have a few things. Oh, we did go to the Maasai village. We did move on from the crater, and on our way to the Serengeti, I think it was something Jean said when we spoke the other day, is that you don't feel like there's all these big drives in between when you're in Tanzania, when you do this kind of itinerary. You know, we felt like we were just transitioning from one park to the next with, you know, no problem. And then the one day that, you know, I think it was about a 5-hour drive, but we stopped off at the Maasai village on the way. And again, it was just me and Stuart and them. And, you know, they were there to meet us, did a little song and dance for us. We got to spend a few hours with them, showing us their homes, you know, how they live. So we sort of integrated with the children as well, which was just absolutely adorable. And then once we've been in the Serengeti, that was it. You know, as Nadine, as Jean says, it truly is just magnificent. I mean, it was amazing. At the end of our honeymoon, of the end of the safari, we took a plane from the Serengeti airstrip to Zanzibar. We needed a week of just relaxation. As you can see from the photographs, it was just that. It was exactly what we needed. The people were just so friendly, the nicest people. I think it was Catherine that said that they are probably one of the nicest set of people, down to earth. It was lovely, truly, truly magnificent honeymoon. And I think there was just a couple of things actually I think I wanted to say is if you are thinking about it, don't think anymore. I think you should just reach out and do it, because life is too short, and it truly is one of the best things you will ever do in your life. And it has totally and utterly changed Stuart and I. And so when we were first talking about this, so actually said to me, he said, "You'll never feel the same again, Jane, once you've been on safari." And I just laughed at him, and I didn't really know what he meant. And actually, I can't explain it. I can't put it into words, but he's actually right. It's, I don't know, you are different when you've been on safari. It touches something that you can't explain. So, I just, and just one thing, actually, sorry if I'm rambling on, but I will just finish off. And what was so nice, I would say, about the people, nothing was too much trouble, all the staff everywhere, and they spend endless amounts of time away from their families and everything, and they're just so happy to be with you all the time. And they used to leave little notes, like little messages of African proverbs and stuff on the pillows and stuff, which were just so, they just touch something, they just mean something. But sometimes they're not proverbs, sometimes they're just a saying. And I've always kept one in my purse, and it sounds a bit, I just wanted to share it, because if I'm having a bad day, I think back to like this moment, and it just says, "There is something about safari life that makes you forget all your sorrows and feel as if you've drunk a bottle of champagne, bubbling over with heartfelt gratitude for being alive." And it's really true. So my advice to you is, don't think about it, just do it.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Okay.
That's really kind of you to share with us. So we have our poll results in. I don't know, there's literally everybody has voted, so it's 100% turnout. And the next destination that we're going to feature is Namibia. I think we spoke about it quite a lot on our launch event. So our next event will be on Namibia, which is great. I think this is the bit that I always do at the end, which is all about obviously COVID and booking terms, and how obviously everyone is being much more flexible now, from the airlines to the hotels to everything you book. People are being a lot more flexible with their terms. So what we're saying is any new bookings that we're taking, we'll contact you 12 weeks before and sort of see where we're at. If you don't want to travel, we can postpone it, or we can refund. But just to let you know that we are working to much more flexible terms now. So on the Q&A, I only have a couple of questions, which is fine. Jeff has asked. He said that he's going to Kenya this year. Why would he want to go to Tanzania next year? So who would like to take that question? Either maybe So or Jean? So?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute.
Yeah, me too. Sorry.
Do you want to go first, Jean, or
Sorry, I kind of missed a part of the question there, Sam. Just shoot that over again, please.
If someone's already been on safari, for example, to Kenya, why would they want to go on a safari to Kenya as their second safari or their third safari destination?
Tanzania. Yeah.
Jeff is booked Jean to go safari with us September in Kenya. So he's asking about the follow-up, the second safari already, which is great news.
Yeah, I kind of think, of course, Tanzania is kind of scenically completely different, but as Jane mentioned there, something we spoke about yesterday is the kind of ease of moving through Tanzania, from Manyara to Ngorongoro into the crater. Just like it seems like all kind of set for you, where you don't waste any time kind of doing long travel. So there's no time wastage in Tanzania. But I kind of think parks like Manyara, Tarangire, that we haven't really covered too much, is very different from anything that you find in Kenya. Culturally, it's a little bit different. And also the Serengeti is the Serengeti ecosystem, of course, for the Ngorongoro, Serengeti and Masai Mara forms part of that. But I think if you really want to experience the migration, the only place to truly do that will be in Tanzania. Any time of year, really. If you do the December season, March with the calving, or like July to October with the river crossings, it's quite spectacular, you know, just to kind of see the immense space of the Serengeti. And then, of course, there's nothing quite like Ngorongoro Crater. But then, I mean, other parts of Tanzania that's outstanding as well, that there's just so much in this country, is the south and west of Tanzania, where you have the chimpanzees. On Lake Tanganyika, there's the most fabulous national park there called Mahali Mountains, where you have to boat into, and crazy nice camp, and you go on walking safaris. There's no roads in the park to kind of go look at the chimpanzees. And then there's parks like Ruaha and Katavi, extremely remote. Selous Game Reserve, that was just gazetted as a national park. It's now called Nyerere National Park. So yeah, there's a lot of options in Tanzania of very, very wild places. And then, as I said, the migration, if you really want to grasp that, the Serengeti, there's nothing like the Serengeti to see the migration.
Perfect, thank you.
I think because people see that the Serengeti Masai Mara is one ecosystem, they quite often lump the two countries together, don't they? As if, oh, well, it'll be exactly the same. Yeah. And actually, there are different things in both of those countries, but very spectacular in their own rights. John's right, you know, the scenery is very different. You can get very close in Tanzania, which is really cool. The thing we were saying about being able to do remote walking camps and stuff like that, there's more of that in Tanzania than there is in Kenya. But
yeah, I also think, like, as a you know, if you've been on safari once, you kind of gently get into the idea of maybe stepping out of your vehicle. You know, I mean, many of you listening might think like, are you out of your mind getting out of your car? But if you've been once, you'll realize that is the true connect. That's when your experience with wildlife is two-dimensional, where you and the animal actually look at each other, engage each other a little bit, and that becomes quite spiritual in some way. So there's a lot more of that happening in Tanzania.
But we're glad you're considering your second safari already, Jeff.
I've got one question here from Kara, who's asking, if you went to Tanzania, what other destination would you combine your holiday with? And I was going to address that to Nadine. You'll need to unmute.
Sorry.
There we go.
So you were talking about other countries or other places in Tanzania?
Yeah, so if you went to Tanzania, what other destinations would you combine with a trip to Tanzania?
Well, I mean, obviously, it really depends on your preferences, but I would say any country in Eastern Africa would be a good match. Very special thing would probably be the gorillas in Rwanda or Uganda. Or you might go to Kenya as well. I mean, crossing from Tanzania to Kenya is quite easy, or can be organized quite easy. So I would say anything in Eastern Africa would probably be a good match.
Perfect. Thank
I
you
just
very much.
add to that, Sam. And there's a lot of American guys on at the moment, and obviously it's quite a long trip for you. A lot of people, if you look at the airline routes, do consider a short stay in Europe on the way over. So you might fly through Spain, or you might fly through Amsterdam, you might fly through London. So people do often consider a stop to break the journey. And I would say to you, if you were considering something like that, do it on the way there, because if you're in Europe, your time difference from Africa will then only be 2 or 3 hours maybe. So you're nearly on the time zone when you land. So that's quite a nice option to consider to make the journey easier on your way over to Africa.
Perfect. Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for your time. We're coming up to an hour, so we'll send you all out an email when the next webinar is scheduled to Namibia. And if anyone wants to discuss any future travel plans for safaris to Tanzania, Nadine's always available. So send us your inquiries and we can put something together for you, maybe for the future when everyone's traveling again. Okay, thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.